Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming for Train Tuesday. I'm not sure why the shop is the way it is. I'm not sure where the layout is. Not sure what this is on my head. That's probably because there's a holiday coming up this week. So, uh, happy holidays. Merry Christmas, everybody that's out there joining us. Who's out there today? Let's do some call outs real quick. Looks like I got Gordon. Gordon Fletcher's out there. Angela's out there. I've got Wayne. I got Fred. I got Nate. Welcome aboard, guys. Come on in. Depending on where you're coming from, it's pretty warm in here, so get out of the cold. Come on in. Randall. We got Randall coming in. Railhawk Racer 19. Welcome aboard. Ricky. Welcome aboard. Got some great stuff for you today. It's going to be a busy show, so I'm hoping that you guys have a chance to relax a little bit and sit back. And we're going to talk about all kinds of cool stuff today. Now, Janik, where's Janik? People are wondering, where'd Janik go? There's this guy, kind of a heavy-set guy, older guy, likes the color red. He called Horizon Hobby the other day and said he needed help. So Janik, I guess Janik took a plane, went up north, and is working on some stuff. Hopefully, we'll see him, next week, and he can tell us what that was all about. But it's a guy I didn't recognize. Big guy, older, beard. So I don't know. Maybe he said something about elves too. I'm not sure what that was all about. So, anyways, let's get started. We got a lot going on. Everybody's really festive. I purposely picked out a nice festive hat, and I tried to find one that didn't show what part of the country I'm from. So I'll take that off real quick. Didn't want anybody to think, I was representing St. Louis or something. So last week we talked a little bit about HO, and usually at the end of the month we talk about N scale. So I got a few N scale things for you guys to take a look at, and then after that we've got some cool stuff because, as you know, I'm sure a lot of you guys are probably anxiously awaiting to see who won the 2020 photo contest. And man, did we get some great pictures. So we'll be sure to stick around to see that. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and show you the first N scale release that we're talking about this month. And remember, you've just got a little bit after Christmas, 28th. You need to get to your dealers and take a look at these items. I'm going to go ahead and open that up so you can see the cars. All right. So last month we talked about these in HO. I won't go over them too much in detail because they're the same cars that we were offering in the HO. But these are still important for N scale. And you take a look at them real quick. We've got the BNX Galveston Wharfs, the former Union Railroad of Oregon. There's a lot of older cars that are from the 70s that the Burlington Northern picked up in the mid-80s. And then we've also got the Northern California short lines. So these FMC box cars were extremely popular in the mid-1970s, all the way into the 80s. And you would see them on just about any part of the country, United States and Canada. So if you're an N-scale guy and you're modeling anywhere between 1970s to early 1990s, you're going to want to grab some of these. Now, also, too, if you notice real carefully, we've got some that are primed for grime. Keep that in the back of your head because there is going to be a contest coming soon about prime for grime. So just a little foreshadowing there for you. These are perfect, like I said, for the N-scale guy that is got a home layout, maybe a small switching layout. They're all body-mounted trucks, metal wheel sets. They work great on code 80, code 55. Zero issues with the code 55 turnouts made by the major manufacturers. So if you're looking for an all-around good box car, these will be available starting next year. So get your pre-orders in this week before Christmas so you don't miss out. Now, I got a good question here from Walter. Walter says, will the ex-Union cars be white or that green color that was on the previous run? Okay, so the Union Railroad had this really light minty type green. These are going to be that same color. That was pretty much their corporate color. So that's what they're going to go back to on this release as well. Now, the difference being is these are going to be lettered for BN because Burlington Northern ended up picking these up. Also, you'll notice too that, and I'll zoom in on that a little bit for you. There we go. You'll notice this is part of the Prime for Grime series. So that light green that you remember, it's going to be even faded out more. So if you were to put the previous run next to the newest run, the greens are going to look a little different. The Prime for Grime is going to be lighter. It's just something that we do to give it that effect to make it look more used and grungy and dirty. And so that's coming out. That's going to be coming out next February. So if you want to get that pre-order in, do it. The absolute last day you can get to your dealer is the 28th. So don't delay. I know for myself, since I do a lot of stuff in N scale, especially in the 70s, I'll be getting a lion's share of those cars. So what else do we have in the N scale bag of tricks? We've also got some covered hoppers. Now, these are very similar to the Genesis ones that we talked about a few weeks ago. They're N scale. They're going to have the body mounted couplers. They're going to have the metal wheel sets. There we go. And once again, I will, yep, there we go. Make sure that was zoomed in so you guys can see that. So once again, these cars are going to be perfect for anybody in N scale that's modeling the 1960s up until the early 80s. The Santa Fe, the Baltimore and Ohio definitely show an earlier paint scheme that was popular in the 1960s. Direct your attention, though, down to the Great Northern car. Just like in the HO scale version that we talked about with Janik a few weeks ago, this is the only one of this style of PS covered hopper that was painted in the big sky blue. Most of the Great Northern cars in this series stayed in their gray with the older logo. But if you're running 1960s, 1970s N scale, these are perfect for that. I can see a freight car for just about every region of the country here. Now, once again, I mean, these are N scale, but the details are definitely very nice. The thing that I like the most about them is they're weighted properly. The wheels will roll over, like I said, all standard types of manufactured track, as well as the turnouts. And with the body mounted couplers, if you've got switching layouts like what I have, going back and forth and pushing a string of these and then scale up a spur or siding is not a problem with these. So that is something that will be coming out next year at this time. And you're going to want to put your pre-orders in no later than the 28th. So I'm going to go ahead and move that here. So while we're talking about the N scale, there was an excellent question that we had earlier. I didn't know if anybody else had any more N scale questions. I see you get some good comments on those FMCs. Yeah, they are definitely a freight car that you would see a lot of right up until even now. You'll see them occasionally. They're not quite as common as they used to be because how freight cars have changed throughout the years. But from the 1970s, when they started out, all through the 80s, they were extremely popular and could be seen on just about any railroad, servicing just about any types of industry. So again, if you've got an N scale, if you do N-Track, Fremo N, T-Track, or if you've got a home layout, these are perfect for that. And I'm just kind of going through to make sure. Chris has got the comment, I love the Prime for Grime. Yeah, the Prime for Grime has been extremely popular for us. It's one of those, basically you could say it's a blank canvas. Even though we've done kind of the hard work for you, all you need to do is just finish it up a little bit. And you can take what would normally be just a off-the-shelf freight car and turn it into something that's extremely believable. And trust me, we had some really good entries for our contest this year. And I'm happy to say a few of you guys out there with your weathering techniques and your camera techniques actually fooled some people. So that's good. Like I said, keep that in mind, because we are going to be doing a contest for Prime for Grime here in the next few weeks. So keep that in the back of your minds. Let's see. Any more questions for N scale? If we don't have any more questions for N scale, we'll go ahead and move on to some fun stuff. Not that N scale is not fun, but okay. It looks like we've got pretty much everybody's got their questions out there. It looks like you guys are all liking those boxcars. Don't forget, too, that Northern California short line set, just like in the HO set, it is going to come in a 3-car set. That's kind of cool. All right, so, there's a lot going on here at Athearn, obviously, because Janek's busy. All of us are really busy at Athearn. This is a very busy time of year. And I'm not sure where this all started from or what brought this on, but for some reason, the winter holidays, the Hanukkah, the Christmas, all of those winter holidays, they seem to tie in trains really nicely. And I know as a kid, that's how I got my start with model railroading. Ironically, both my grandfather and my father were pilots, so you'd think I'd be working over at Hangar 9 or E-Flight, but actually I got into trains first. So I know Christmas for me was all about trains. We'd set up the trains and have a lot of fun with them. But, I'm not alone with that. A lot of other people have had experiences with that. We thought just because of the time of the season and with the holiday contest, thought it'd be a good time to kind of reflect on that a little bit, kind of go down memory lane. And I've got somebody with us today who's known for memory lane. He does a lot of writing about trains, train sets, accessories, things of the past. I'd like you guys to welcome aboard Tony Cook. Hey, Tony, how are you? Your mic's still on. There you go.
That is, you've seen that meme. 2020 is your mic is muted. So
yeah. Well, it's funny you say that. I mean, I've seen another meme. I've seen plenty of memes, and I've even seen a freight car. Some guys get a new freight car to put under the tree that'll be dated Christmas, 2020. And this year it was a flat car with 2 dumpsters on it, and the dumpsters were on fire.
Yeah. Whoever decided to tool that up would have been a winner. But would you have thought of let's go ahead and make that? But no, it has been a challenging and interesting year. So, but I know we're happy to see the holidays as always, and I can't believe it's Christmas week as it tends to be. I know you and I think are about. I'm just north of Kansas City, and where you're at in the Champaign area, so we're kind of across. At least today, I'm in like the mid 50s, almost 60, and it doesn't feel like it. But now I think I saw tomorrow's low is 15. So it's not hanging around.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So definitely, now I can't speak for the Midwest. I've only been out here for about 22 years, but I know growing up as a kid in central New England, by this time, and in fact, right now, even my lucky friends that are out there that are snowmobiling right now, you'd have feet of snow on the ground by now. And boy, out here anyways, we've got green grass.
Yes, yeah. No, we've had a little bit of snow, I think, but maybe more back towards Halloween that we got snow. But yeah, it'll get there. Yeah, you were talking about train sets, and I see that especially this time of year in advertising, different TV shows, that it never fails. There's always a train around a tree. And I was a little disappointed. The other day I watched an episode of, remember Petticoat Junction?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And they showed them having a Christmas thing, and they had no train around their tree.
What's up with that?
Yeah, you know, all I can figure
I
is
thought the star of the show was the train.
yeah, they had a train right outside. Maybe that's why. But I remember being a little disappointed, like, hey, where's the train? But anyhow, you see
That's
trains
kind
all
of
over the place, and I catch them in a lot of things this time of year, and it's always fun to see who, you know, what scale is it and whose is it and such. You talked about classic train sets. You know, quarterly I do in Railroad Model Craftsman the collector consist column, and the current issue December. I think I have it there on the shared screen thing that I can share with,
Oh, okay. Let's bring that up here real quick.
and you can look at that. But and we've already gotten feedback from a number of people on it. This is December's Railroad Model Craftsman, and I just kind of go through some classic train sets over the years with kind of the different highlights of things, you know, that were popular over the years. And this is in Craftsman Quarterly, as I say, and as you say, I write. HO Collector is quarterly, and then Model Railroad News has classic stuff in it. So it's amazing that you know, I always think, well, this is so much hobby history. Is there that much interest? It's amazing that everybody has that. Oh, I had that as a kid, or I wanted that set, or you know, those kind of things are so neat. But so anyway, this is in the current RMC. If you get a chance to pick up a copy of that, please do so. And you can find all our things at shop.whiteriverproductions.com.
Yeah, you know, it's cool because, you know, even, you know, I think a lot of us out there, you know, we see all the fans for Athearn, and, you know, at the end of the day, I think a lot of us are hardcore model railroaders. You know, myself, I did fully detailed, or as detailed as you could get, N scale locomotives for a number of years. And our customers, you know, they're used to Genesis, and even some of the ready to run stuff is so nicely detailed compared to what we have had as kids. But we still get nostalgic, and it's kind of cool every once in a while to go back to, you know, I'm dating myself here, so the millennials out there will laugh at me, but remember getting the Sears Roebuck Dream book and looking through that catalog and seeing all the cool, you know, different train sets and slot cars and things of that nature, and just dreaming, you know, of like that picture we're seeing right now of these just massive locomotives and their destination to parts unknown as a kid. You know, it just captures a whole feeling of nostalgia with it.
And I think that's part of that excitement. I think no train set is worth, you know, it's not credible unless you have something like this. Now, this was not on a train set ever, but like this Burlington artwork, I think you have to have that box lid or something somewhere with this, just that excitement factor of, you see the engineer in the cab, and it's, you know, it's a big train running, and you start imagining this is, you know, what I want to do with the train set. So yeah, to me, especially in collecting, that's one of the things I like is the box art and the other stuff, because it's such a, I got to have that, you know, from looking at it. And that's why it's done, you know, why they put those kind of images on the boxes, is it certainly is allure, and it is neat stuff.
It is really neat. And, you know, I think back when you're younger, you have the imagination where you can just, you know, wonder where's the train going, what's it doing. You just want to be a part of that scene. You know, you instantly look at a scene like that, and the train set was just kind of that vehicle to get that one step closer to fulfilling that dream, really.
Now, you talked about early train sets that you had. There was one I wanted to share. It was not a train set, you know, out of the box kind of thing that I had, but one of the ones I remember the most, and this would have been like very early 1970s. I grew up in central Illinois, north of the St. Louis area, south of Springfield, Illinois, and we were on the Gulf Mobile in Ohio just about the time it was turning into Illinois Central Gulf. And the red and white GP38s, they had Jeep 38s, ACs, and Dash 2s, which now, of course, there's wonderful Genesis models of those. But at the time, there wasn't even a Jeep 38 on the market. And I remember one Christmas, Dad took the HO Blue Box Jeep 35, filed off the dynamic brakes because the GM&O didn't have dynamics, filed off the center fan on the back of the radiators, because I was probably like maybe 6-7 years old, so enough that I could pick out the differences. So we turned the 35 into a 38 by sanding off that fan in the back, so you just had the two, and then painted it red and white GM&O, and it was like one of my favorite Christmas things of all time. And it's amazing to think now of going to all of that, of filing all this off or cutting this off and custom painting it. But that GM&O red and white, it would have been a Jeep 35, kind of turned into a 38, was an amazing Christmas gift. And I know what, you're a big Boston and Maine fan. Like what sticks in your head is one of the trains that you remember?
The funny thing is I had commented earlier that my dad and grandfather were both pilots, and I actually grew up in a small town airport. So most people are like, "Wow, it's the Athearn guy doing. What are you doing with trains?" And trains, it's always been my number one love, and it goes back to a Christmas in the mid '70s where my older brother, had purchased the old AHM sets. Remember those? And definitely not scale, but it was enough to spark the imagination. It was a time of our bicentennial, so America was in the grips of the bicentennial craze, and so it was a GP18 Seaboard Coastline with a matching cupola caboose and about 3 or 4 different freight cars. Wow. And of course, the old snap brass track and the classic. And the funny thing is, I still have that locomotive. I still have that caboose. I've kept it all these years. Somehow it survived childhood. I did have to make some trips in the '90s. I made some trips to a couple of shows and found some parts to kind of bring it back to its heyday. But for the most part, it's still around. And I would have never thought, and I don't think my brother, when he was, throwing that package in the back of his Mercury Capri. There's a name you haven't heard of.
Oh, how about that? Yeah, oh no,
probably.
Just thinking about those the other night. Yeah.
Yeah, you throw it in the back of his Mercury Capri, probably listening to Foghat on the way home. He probably had no idea I would end up working for, one of the greatest and most iconic railroad brands ever, and it did. So it's amazing how. Both of us, kind of our backgrounds, we've had these as gifts. We've kind of had them around the holidays and things of that nature, and look where it got us, which is great. I mean, it's one of the best jobs you can have.
Oh, indeed, certainly. And I about every year, I haven't yet this year, but about every year I try to give somebody a train set. Whether it's kids here in town or an adult that I know that has shown an interest in the hobby or something. That, because again, as you say, when you get that set, it can be such a life-changing thing that you get into the hobby and all. That to me, it's a lot of fun to give a train set or to introduce somebody to the hobby with a kit or a locomotive. That you never know, it can spark a big interest for them.
It's very true, and I mean that's a great suggestion, especially this time of year. A lot of folks out there, they think, the kids, they don't care about anything but video games or their smartphones. And that's really not true. I mean, at Athearn, and I'm sure we've talked about this in the past, we're seeing many younger people get into it as a hobby, and it starts as kids. Maybe they had a little Thomas the Toy Train when they were a kid, and now it's gone into this. And same goes for now. So, it's definitely pretty cool. And you can't have one without the other. So
I'm amazed as you say that. You think that younger kids, it is all the smartphone or video games and things, but in the last couple of months, between some of the podcasts and other things I've done, I keep running into these people that, again, it's like this is like a 20-some-year-old kid that's into doing trains and things, and I again, it kind of goes against that grain of what you might think. So no, the hobbies, it's amazing the interest that it sparks for people.
Yeah, it really is. And I think, it even goes to what we end up producing. I mean, if you think about some of the stuff that was made in the past, say Tyco or River Osi or AHM, a lot of those brands that are not even around anymore. But if you think back to how they influenced you, and to this day, I still like, the old-fashioned high hood Jeep 7s, Jeep 9s, and I credit that GP18 I had. And so that's going to happen with the designers too. They're going to be like, when I was a kid, I had a GP18. Hey, let's do a GP18 in the Genesis line. And so what what comes around goes around. And it's hopefully helps out our fans too. I know we've had some comments on GP18, so I think we're probably going to be doing something there.
Yeah, you certainly have the frame for it with the Genesis stuff. What was announced recently? Was it low hood or high hood? I thought you had some 18s, or were they late 9s? What was that we announced? We had it in
We get
model
some
road.
late 9s.
Okay.
Yeah, some late 9s, and we've got some low nose Santa Fe Topeka jobs, but
Yeah.
we are getting a lot of requests for the GP18 low nose, which, if you think about it, my railroad had those, the GP18s and low nose, so I'd be all for it. There was a lot of railroads that did that, and that was kind of the start of EMD doing the low nose, because the Jeep 7s, Jeep 9s, standard high hoods, they worked well for what they did, but they found that with a low nose, it was a little bit easier on the visibility and such. So starting really with the 18, then going on to the 20s and further, they kind of stayed with that.
Yeah, exactly.
With the exception of
the 9s, what I think SP and maybe Rock Island. There were a few factory low nose 9, but very late. And again, it was just that was not the standard option. But then suddenly with the 18, there was more of them. And then, as you say, with the 20s, outside of Great Northern, Western Pacific. No, not Western Pacific. Great Northern. There's a couple people I think with high hood 20s, but the 20 basically is a low hood model and goes forward. Then to where the high hood becomes just the realm of Southern and Norfolk and Western for the most part. But so it's interesting how that kind of stuff changes. You talked about how train sets influence people. I'm always surprised when I talk to different people in the industry, and that will come around where they'll ask me something about HO collector, or they know I'm into older model trains too. And I always ask, what was your first train set? And it's amazing, how many serious people in the business will say, oh, it was a Tyco this or that. And it's like, so again, you never know what that train set's going to do. That we can be thankful for some of the great models we have today because of some train set that was around a Christmas tree 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah, and I'm reading some of the comments as we're talking, and there's some great points. I believe it was Hugo that said earlier. He said, a lot of clubs, a lot of older people tend to talk down to the kids, and it turns them off. And he's got a good point. I mean, it's hard sometimes where you've got a highly detailed layout or a club layout, and you've got all this money and time invested in stuff, and it can be a little nerve-wracking with some younger guys at the layout. But if you take the time and patience and treat them like an adult, I know that's what helped me. I had some guys in my train club back in Concord, New Hampshire years ago that put up with my hyperactivity with oh wow, that train actually runs. Mine doesn't run at home. If you take the time and just kind of work with them, then that's all it takes. Because like I said, my dad was a pilot. He knew what trains were, but he wasn't really into them. So I pretty much learned the hard way. So and something else too that's been said, and this was in the comments section, is it does take a little bit with the parents to help the kids out a little bit. And this time of year, we are extremely busy because we do have a lot of parents that are buying sets and add-on things, and they might not know all the ins and outs about it. So they talk to our customer service reps, and they are just bombarded right now. They're backed up and trying to get as much done as they can. But something else that's really cool is we've got some guys in California and Long Beach. They, before the pandemic, they were working with teens and having them come in and learn to do prototype operations and stuff. And that's what we need. We really need more guys going out there and bringing the younger guys in and showing them this is such a great hobby. We need to share it with everybody.
And they're excited about it. I don't know if you've seen Drew Warrington with the Northern Delaware Model Railroad Club. He's got a YouTube channel. I think you can search like Nordell, Northern Delaware, I think it is. And he started a thing. He's got a podcast or an interview show, and I've been on it. And Drew and I just did our first review together for Model Railroad News. And I think he's like 18, 19 years old, if that. I mean, he's going away to college or he's, finishing up high school. But again, that club that he's in, I think it's Northern Delaware Model Railroad Club, he's got videos showing off the club layout and the operations and stuff he does there. So again, that there's always that opportunity to help somebody else get started in the hobby, and it's so great to see him take that and run with it. As he's done now with, I think it's the Turntable Podcast is his show, and he interviews people and talks about the hobby, and it's just great to see that enthusiasm.
Yeah, we're getting some comments on his channel as you're talking, so that's good to know. Get them out there and get them involved. And Mike in the comment section also brought up a good point. Have them join the NMRA. That's another great tool that sometimes we forget about because we use it all the time. But yeah, have them join the NMRA. They do have a junior subscription rate. Makes a great, gift for birthdays, holidays, things of that nature. Don't forget about the NMRA. It's a big tool. So
you can all that out at nmra.org. We'll get you started on that, and you've probably got a local chapter if you're not aware of it. I'm a member here, and there's here in the Kansas City area that there's a local chapter, and the magazine and everything. There's a lot to the NMRA that really has a lot of neat stuff. So again, nmra.org will help you get that information.
Yeah, definitely. And if you are out there, maybe you're a parent and you're kind of doing what a lot of parents do now. They're trying to get some information on the web, and you're seeing this on our YouTube channel later on, not in the live stream, and you're looking for something for your younger family members. Go to Athearn.com. We have under the Roundhouse line, we've got some great starter trains that work great for the younger modelers out there. They're priced just for the more economical, and they don't have all those details that can break off real easy. So check those out. It's under the Roundhouse label. It's at Athearn.com. You can also go to horizonhobby.com and see those items as well. So yeah, it's an exciting time of year, and I mean, it turns all of us, I think, into 8-year-old boys again, on the floor and running our trains, and stepping away from the highly detailed stuff and just kind of relaxing a little bit, I guess you could say.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Well, as I was saying earlier, Tony, we had a contest, and we wanted to kind of get in touch with everything that we've talked about today. And so we did a Spirit of the Holidays photo contest, and we got a lot of great submissions. In fact, of a lot of good stuff. We're fortunate that our Athearn fans are not only just great customers, they are extremely good modelers. And so we put pictures up on our social media for about the past 2 weeks, and then the contest ended last Thursday. We chose a winner on Friday, and we haven't shared any of that yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm
eager to see who it is, because I shared a lot of them over onto the Model Railroad News Facebook, and we talked before we went on today. But yeah, I'm curious to see, because I've kind of been following and watching them. So who did you pick?
Well, let's see. I'm gonna go to my folder here and bring those up. And what I'll do is I'll show you what we got. I'll bring this picture up.
I thought it was interesting, a lot of the variety. Some of the things were, oh, there goes my dog, I must be getting a delivery.
Yeah, I know what that's like.
But I was amazed at like the range, like, oh, I remember this picture, and it really got me. There's one that you almost take a double take at first, like, oh, that is a model. I mean, isn't that?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, we got it down to three photos. I'm going to show you 3 photos, and off from that is our winner. But yeah, I wanted to go over these 3 photos because these are just amazing. This first one here is by Ricky Keel, and Ricky, yeah, you almost got me single-handedly, because besides the Boston and Maine, I still love the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy. Such a classy railroad. Look at this picture, though. This looks like Illinois.
It does. Oh yeah, as I say, it has. I remember when that one went up that I had to look at it twice. But what a great shot! Yeah, really nicely done.
Yeah, I mean, he's got everything there. He's got the Athearn Mack truck is sitting there at the crossing. You've got that really cool post 1957 Chinese red and gray paint scheme on that high hood Jeep. And the Burlington guys in the room will know exactly what that is. That's not a caboose. That's a way car. He's got a nice way car there, some covered hoppers. And the funny thing is, the ironic thing is when I got this submission I think it was last week, we had just gotten our first snow here in Illinois, and it looked just like this. Now, I wish I could look out my window and not only just see the snow, but see all this cool CB&Q equipment, though.
Oh my gosh!
Beautiful job by man. I mean,
you see that he even dusted up. See the walkways and the top of the way car. And I love between the rails there ahead of the locomotive. I mean, that's some amazingly good. That isn't just. I mean, look how it's kind of on there. That it has that look of a light snow. That again, as I said, I was really impressed with that picture. That's amazing.
This was a very impressive picture. It got a lot of likes on our Facebook page. All Athearn product, and just the subtle little thing of putting the tree on the front pilot there. I was like, hey, somebody's when they get back to the yard, they're going to throw that in the back of their Rambler station wagon and go home and put it up. Really cool, Ricky. Thank you for that submission. Very nice. Another one that we got that also will make you feel cold. I think this is going to be more in the Northwest. Check this out. Mike Harriman sent this in. ES44 plowing through a snowbank.
And you see pictures like that. That's a really good, inspired by actual events, that it has that look of where they hit a blast like at an intersection where a plow has piled snow up. That is a neat picture.
And not only that, but you get the sky right. It kind of has that hazy cold.
That cold
look to it.
Yeah.
It looks cold. And I mean, just if you look at the way the snow is just kind of, after it's been hit, it's kind of powdery and it's floating down. I mean, just the effect is, it basically, anybody that looked at this in the office was like, man, I'm glad I'm not standing trackside to get that picture. And this picture here, I was really happy with, because my wife was looking at Facebook one night, and of course she's always looking at the Athearn Facebook page, and she says, Jim, I know you guys are doing a contest, but this isn't going to work. And I looked at the picture and I said, why? What's wrong with it? She goes, well, this guy's sending a picture of a full-scale train. I said, do you think so? She, oh yeah. No, it's a model. It's an Athearn ES44 that this gentleman weathered, and she was convinced it was real. It really looks nice. Now another picture, and since we had, the theme was to capture the spirit of your hobby and the holidays, and this next submission was from Will Osterman. And man, how many does this take you back or what? I mean, this looks like those store displays. Or instead of the little the Red Ryder BB gun, though, we see some really cool Athearn product, and somebody's going to have a good Christmas here.
Oh yeah, that one. When you posted that one, I love that, with all the vintage boxes and the bows on them and everything. That says holidays and Athearn. How cool! Yeah.
Just a really nice setup. Has a nice classic feel to it. It definitely brings you back. It kind of reminds me of the beginning of the Christmas Story movie, where they're all down at the department store looking through the window, and this kind of reminds me of that. It's really nicely done, Will. So, like I was saying, these were the three top contenders, and we had a real hard time. We looked at how many likes and comments each one got on our Facebook page. We had a committee meeting on Friday, and just to let you know, the winner of the contest, the grand prize, gets a brand new Genesis ES44 1943, the Union Pacific one. In fact, this one's the one right behind me here. And so without further ado, we want to say congratulations to our grand prize winner, Mike Harriman.
Hey, awesome.
Mike Harriman, you pulled it off. You didn't only just fool my wife, you fooled some other folks too. And our photographer that does a lot of our professional photography, not the stuff that you see necessarily on Facebook, but our really cool photography, he really liked your submission as well. You all did a really great job. I really appreciate everybody for for entering this contest. But Mike, you'll be getting your locomotive here in a few weeks, and I don't want runners up to feel empty-handed either. But you'll be getting an email pretty soon. We have a free gift for you guys too, since you did such a great job on your submissions. Now, I talked to Mike earlier by email, and he couldn't make it because it's Tuesday and it's 3:30 in the afternoon, and a lot of us still work, so he couldn't make it for this. But he did bring me some pictures about how he did the scene, and this is kind of cool. This first picture, Mike says, in this photo, he was trying to get the shape of the snow. He wanted to get the snow blast just right, so what he did was he sprinkled some crushed eggshells and secured it to cotton with a clear coat. And it's funny, you see the eggshells there, Tony.
Yeah,
it's pretty convincing. It kind of looks like that snow that we get here in the Midwest that kind of gets that thin layer of ice or glaze
on the top, and then it kind of blasts into wow.
Yeah, and I was like, that's a pretty good idea, and I see what he's doing there. And so his next picture is an overall different shot where it's got some more texture added. He said in this picture here, this is the overall shot and scene with my Genesis ES44AC and the Southern Pacific AC4400, both from Atherton and Roundhouse respectively. I left a ruler on the tracks up to the cotton snow blast, then covered the scene with sifted flour before moving the locomotives into place, leaving clean track where the engines had sat. I then took a small fan paintbrush and sprinkled small amounts of flour on the front of the Gevo.
Wow.
And so, in a way, I kind of wish he hadn't shown me this, because it's like the movie magic is gone, but it's very ingenious. And I don't know if I've seen anybody do something like this before, but Mike, definitely great stuff here. We really appreciate your efforts. With that said too, we want to thank everybody. As you can see in this little collage we made, we had a lot of great submissions. And it was a lot of fun. It was great seeing everybody's hard work and what they're doing this time of year with their hobby. So I just want to thank everybody for being a part of this. And like I said, Mike, your Genesis locomotive is going to be on the way. You probably won't have it before Christmas, but you will be getting it probably before 2020 is over. And like I said, our runners up, definitely we want to look for your emails here in the next few days. We want to reward you for your hard work. Definitely a lot of fun, and can't wait to do it again next year. I think we're going to have to do that next year.
It was it was a lot of fun when you guys announced that. I wondered, what you'd get back and how many pictures, and there were so many and such a variety of it that I think is a lot of fun. Like our editor at Railroad Model Craftsman, Otto Vondruck, brought back the Boomer Trail is now in Craftsman again, that has the pictures of people's layouts and things. And to me, that's always, when I'm researching or going through old issues, you always stop and look at somebody's model railroad, whether it's 50s or 70s or 90s, going back through issues. It's just a fun snapshot of, wow, look at this guy's railroad, and here's kind of state of the art for whenever. So those are great things. But this was, and the thing I like about Harriman's picture, it's all real stuff. There's no, well, I photoshopped in the snow or I photoshopped in exhaust. That one shot, that overhead, the kind of behind the scenes that you shared, you can see it's all real stuff. And I think that to me adds something extra too.
Yeah, it's kind of like that movie magic. He's got the movie magic down, and it's really neat to see what people can do to achieve something that we take for granted in the real world. And to me, if somebody were to say, "Hey, do this picture of a locomotive on a main line hitting a snowbank or just some snow on the side," I don't know how I'd do that. And Mike had the ingenuity down, and I'm not sure if I've seen that done before. If somebody else has done it, I'd like to see it. But really good job. And I mean, again, the hardest part was, last week, looking at all the pictures, and there were so many good pictures that it was really hard to choose. But like I said, the first thing I thought of when I saw Mike's picture was like, man, I'm glad I'm not the guy with the camera taking that picture because I'm about to get covered. So Tony, something else we've been talking about, we've talked about our childhood train sets, and we've talked about how folks have taken their models and made them look like actual working units and things of that nature. One thing that comes up from time to time is, what if? We talked a little bit about this earlier with the CB&Q. What if the CB&Q never merged? What if they didn't get together with all those? What if they still existed today? Or what if the Santa Fe and the BN never tied the knot in 1995? What would it look like now? And Athearn has always been known for, especially in their Genesis line, of doing things super accurate, doing a lot of research. But we wanted to do something a little bit different with our next run of ES44s. And so we started doing something that we're calling the legendary liveries. And it answers the question, what would it look like if the Santa Fe was still around and it was on an ES44? Or what about Chessie? And those items just came in stock. And Tony, I know you're going to be doing a review on a few of these too pretty soon. Let me share my screen here real quick and show everybody where they're at on our website. And then I know you've got some pictures that we're going to talk about too, because the things that sometimes we don't know is sometimes those what ifs were pretty darn close to actually happening. So let's see. Let me get this.
And I think this is, for this group, is your first time with Genesis branded, isn't it? I think in the past, I remember buying Ready to Roll of a number of different things when you'd have the what if liveries, but I think this is a first to have Genesis level models.
That's right. Yeah.
I think that's a neat thing too that I'm especially looking forward to.
So it's one of those things where, here we've got the Western Marylands, and these are all in stock. They just came in stock the other day. And the problem is when we announced these, I think we were just coming into the beginning of the pandemic. And so, things kind of got lost in the shuffle. But the good news is they're in stock now. If you missed the pre-order back when we announced these, you have a chance to get these. And, I know it's kind of fun to see, hey, what if the CB&Q was still around and they had an ES44? Or what about the Western Maryland? You can kind of answer those questions there. I'll select this Circus Scheme Western Maryland. And as you can see, it's a legendary livery. It's the original Circus paint scheme that you would have seen on their locomotives back before they became Chessie. But now it's applied on an actual ES44 locomotive. And it's going to have the same detail as any of the other Genesis locomotives that we have. It's going to have the Tsunami. It's going to have all those features. The one difference is it's going to have a paint scheme that you don't see on Class 1 railroading anymore.
That really works well on that one. I especially like the nose, how the WM with the black chevrons on each side. That it's always interesting to see, because most of these heritage or fallen flag roads don't make it into the wide nose era of today. So when you see these kind of paint schemes, again, it's wow, I've never seen that laid across contemporary prototype like that, and that one really looks good. I like the look of that.
It's and the other funny thing about these types of schemes too is years ago, somebody I knew had painted a I think it was a Jeep 15 in N scale, and they had painted it in Rock Island blue and white. And there was, oh, that's crazy. That would, even if the Rock Island was still around, they wouldn't have that paint scheme anymore. They wouldn't use GP15s. What's kind of funny about that? I'd like to talk to those guys today, because guess what? It really is a blue and white GP15 in Rock Island.
Oh, the one guy down in Mississippi or something has one or two. I think they're Jeep. Are they 15s or 40s? But
I think there's a 15, and I don't remember what the other one is. I think it's a 38 or a 38-2. Our fans out there, I'm sure they'll know, and they'll show me show me what it is, but I want to say one of them's a 15. And so it's one of those things where, sometimes science fiction can become science fact. Who would have thought, 20 years ago when we picked up our Motorola Razor that we were just copying Captain Kirk from a few years earlier. And same thing goes for these. We see a lot. I mean, remember, we've seen New Haven McGinnis paint schemes come back in real life.
Yeah. And again, that's
the Finger Lake.
Yeah, a lot of these heritage schemes are like those commuter rail schemes that were done. They're throwbacks to, these fallen flags that you see a good bunch of these now. There it is.
Yeah, Cedar. Yeah. Cedar Valley says, yep, they have two 38-2s and a couple of 15s. So there you go. Whoever painted that GP15 and N scale 15, 20 years ago, it's no longer science fiction. It's pretty much fact, unless you happen to get the numbers wrong. That's always a possibility. But, now one of the things I wanted to talk about these too, not only are they in stock, but why we did them. We tried to make these as if the timeline had been changed. You hear about the multiverse in the news nowadays. You hear about the multiverse all the time. And again, it goes back to what if these railroads never merged? Now, here's a great example. Here's a Burlington Northern. And I have a soft spot for these Cascade Green locomotives. But, we tried to envision the numbering system. The numbering system would be based on what would have happened if these locomotives were built, but the merger never happened in 1995. And so you have a carryover of a popular paint scheme about the time the merger happened. We don't do anything more to the paint scheme. We don't try to update it or anything of that nature, but we do try to make it look like the merger never happened. And apparently this one's popular because it's already out of stock.
Wow.
So if you're on the fence on these and you're like, I don't know, do I want one of these or not? Yeah, you might want to get them because I know the CB&Q versions are going quick. And I know you're doing a review on, I think you're doing a Burlington Northern review, right? And what was the other one?
An Amtrak will be in our May edition is an Amtrak 50th anniversary themed one. So I think the Pepsi can livery is one of the things you were doing for those looks of those ES units. So it'll be a 6-axle version of what was that GE 4-axle that Amtrak actually owned.
Which was a really, I always liked that paint scheme. That was kind of a cool paint scheme. I'm kind of sad to see they didn't really use it much, but it'll be neat to see your review about it. Probably coming up beginning of the year, I would think. Wouldn't it be, Tony?
Mm-hmm. No, I'll have stuff out on our website, modelrailroadnews.com, and then, as I say, it'll be in that May edition. I think those units were kind of a stopgap for Amtrak was looking at what at the time they'd had the F40PH had been out, and the last of those had delivered in the 80s, and I think, but EMD had that between the F59 and there's a couple of F69s that Amtrak looked at, and I think they'd had the deal in place for GE for the P40s, but they weren't ready yet, and they needed something immediately. So what they're like B32-WHs or something for wide nose HEP, but I had some pictures I brought up, and I don't know the picture I have here. I'd have to look at the info. Obviously, that looks like I think that's a road railer test. Maybe on yeah, you see the Santa Fe cars, and then there's a new GE unit, and then that's the scheme you're doing, which when I saw it announced, it really lays across, obviously, because it's the same thing, just a longer body, the ES44, but it's an interesting thought, because I think as Amtrak first got into things in the 70s, when they ordered the SDP40Fs, which you guys make, and then General Electric did a small group of the P30CHs, I think initially 6-axle was the way they were going. I think the F40 ended up being the replacement for the troubled SDP40F, but I think a 6-axle regular unit was what we were going to see everywhere. So in that kind of idea of extrapolating that forward, yeah, could an ES44, had they have stayed with big 6-axle units like that, it might have been a reality.
Yeah, and I mean that's just, I remember seeing that scheme when I first moved here to Illinois back 22 years ago and seeing that scheme, and I thought, man, that is really cool. I always liked it. That that car body of the engine wore that scheme well, and
Mm-hmm.
it translates well to the ES44s, like you're saying. So, yeah, we'll be looking forward to that review. You had some more pictures of this paint scheme too, didn't you, Tony?
I did. I think I've closed those when I opened a couple other things. I don't see it, but I can show some of the.
Okay.
We were talking Burlington,
Oh yeah.
and now you showed the Burlington Northern, but I think you've got CB&Q of this style is coming, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's going to be the post 57, the Chinese red and gray, one of their iconic paint schemes. Really, really neat color. I was so overtaken with that paint scheme that when I first moved to Illinois, I was modeling N scale BNSF, and I kept seeing these signs of CB&Q, and I'm like, what is CB&Q? I'm from New England. I've never heard of this. And I saw that, and that scheme right there is what did it.
And again, that kind of going forward on things. If you look at the history, Burlington was a good supporter. They had U-25Bs, they had U-25Cs. This is a U-28C phase 1, so it, for most intents, looks like a 25. The split windshield, I think, is a big giveaway that it's plus. Naturally, Burlington was always a helper to the Railfan by putting those nice plates on the side that told you what the locomotive was. So
Uh-huh.
U-28C, but Burlington and then later Burlington Northern, were good GE buyers. So I think that's fun too, to see these done when it works for. Yeah, they were a supporter of big 6-axle GE units, so it would make sense they would have an ES44.
Yeah, let me see. I've got a picture of the ES44 on our website, and just show that so we can kind of compare those two. And it makes sense, the logical progression. If you just simply change one thing, in 1970, what could have been? And it's not too different than what writers in their novels do and things of that nature. But if you're one of those, and I know there's modelers out there that do this because we read about them all the time, they'll say, "Hey, what if the merger never happened? How would this railroad look now?" And you bring up some great points, since they were a proponent of those 6-axle GEs. This looks like a possible progression. So very cool. And I can't wait to see your review on those locomotives.
And I think what we talked about, you showed the chassis, and it's interesting. Some of those, as the years go, like the Burlington Northern, if you don't really think about it at first, you're like, well, how far did BN get? Because, you make it into the 90s, same as I know the Santa Fe Superfleet scheme is in there. And at first glance, you're like, is that or isn't it? That's some, again, as the years progress, you're like, well, wait a minute, what was their last power? And like for chassis, I think these are SD50s of like the mid 80s. I think this is the last new power delivered in chassis system livery.
Yeah.
So and you've taken it forward well by keeping the scheme looks like they were doing at the time. But on some of those, as I say, between the Superfleet and the Burlington Northern, I almost have to stop myself at first and think, well, now wait a minute, where did they get? Because like Santa Fe gets to -9s, I think, and they had SD75Ms that were in Superfleet. So some of them, again, it's not just a what if scheme, but if you're modeling that era and you want to just give yourself a little bit more, like here's something that's like a little too new for them, but they probably would have bought it, that again, they suddenly become very legitimate and not as far-fetched as, well, would Burlington still be Chinese red, from 1970 all the way into contemporary times? Like, well, maybe, but something might have changed. But those others, again, there's not that much of a leap from where they
Really?
stopped in the 90s to where these come in about 2000.
Randall writes in. He says, "This is kind of my insane fantasy train. Get the BN ES44AC, 10-unit set of BN impact cars, all with BN trailers, and mate them with the 5-unit BN impact car and BN caboose I already have. Sound good?" Well, Randall, you know what? It's rule number one. It's your railroad. You can do whatever you want. Sounds good to me. I like Cascade Green.
I do too. And well, you've got BN is in the next run of those international wide visions, I think, for the first time. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's coming right up too. So
Now,
definitely.
when you talked about we had CB&Q, but this and it's what 57? Did you say is that Chinese red scheme? And I think
Yeah.
this,
1957.
and this is even a little bit older, but I think you've got Black Widow in the group, don't you? Here's a legit Black Widow F unit, and what a great scheme this is. And it again, I think we go to Bloody Nose around 1960 after they did a few of those. There's some like what they called them Halloween schemes and other things that SP tinkered with, and then the gray with the red ends comes into play. But I think you can show us the ES44 is going to come in this scheme as well.
Yep. That is definitely one of the schemes that we're doing. And the funny thing is that ES44 really does that scheme nice. I had one here for some marketing pictures, and it really looks sharp. It's amazing how these classic paint schemes from the 40s and 50s and even 60s look so nice on these modern locomotives.
And this is I picked this out of our White River collection on purpose because an F unit has that wide, because Jeeps and the early like SD 79s all got that scheme. But as I was looking through pictures, I thought, oh, of course, like the Alco PAs or the F units already have that big blunt nose like today's wide. So again, if it worked on that, it would probably work on a Gevo.
Yeah, definitely. Very cool. Now, we got, it's one of those projects that we did that, Tony, I'll be honest with you, a lot of people either like it or they hate it. It's a very polarizing thing. And a lot of guys were like, "Man, why are you doing this? This is just weird. Why would you do that?" And the funny thing is of all the posts that we did on our social media, like the Chessie ES44 and I think we did a Western Maryland version. They got the most comments. They got the most likes. They got the most everything. And it's one of those things where some folks know they're hardcore prototype modeling. They don't have time for that, but there's still a large group of guys out there that like it. And one of the things that really helps everybody out is by doing these neat what if schemes. It allows us to do the really, really hardcore ES44s, and those are in stock now too. I'll talk a little bit about those now because wanted to make you guys aware that these are in stock too, and a lot of these are going to be in the Prime for Grime and Genesis series. Let me bring up my screen again, and actually, let me get out of the CB&Q. And these are selling quick. These just came in about 2 weeks ago. So if you haven't visited your dealer lately and you're looking for a ES44 in a Class 1, you might want to go to your dealer soon because they're not lasting long. Let me go to...
And this run has what, LED lighting? I don't know if it's the first time, but I think it is. Isn't this first time for LED?
I think in the ES44s, it is the first time, yes. And it's going to have the rubber MU hoses. But the other thing that's really cool about these is we're already out of the BNSF, but here's the UP, and it's all faded. You see how the armor yellow is almost a custard yellow?
Yeah.
It's prime for grime. And I mean, let's be honest. I mean, especially for modelers that model out in the Southwest, these colors, they bleach quick. And so this is pretty common. Even on a clean unit, these are going to be faded. And these, like I said, these just came into stock. The other ones that we've got there are in stock are the retrucked CP rail versions. These are from the first order, I believe, that Canadian Pacific ordered, and they've retrucked them since then. And we've had some, the ES44, it's mainline, it's busy doing a lot of work. I mean, they've been out there for a number of years now, so they've definitely got their work cut out for them. Something else I wanted to let you all know is we've got some great reviews on these two models too. First one, I'm going to share my screen again. Let's see. We sent a Canadian Pacific version to our new reviewer in Canada, BA Rail System, did a really great review on this locomotive. And I'm going to bring that up real quick so you can see his channel and see his review real quick. And I'll just go ahead and unmute, but I'll just give you an idea of what Ben did here. Ben did this great review on the Canadian Pacific Rail version of the ES44. And he is a Canadian Pacific modeler, and one of the reasons why we chose him. Go check out his channel. It's BA Rail System. And this, we shared this review, I think we shared it on Friday, but go to his channel at BA Rail. In fact, let me do this for you guys. There we go. Then you can remember who it is. But Ben over at BA Rail System, really great modeler, has a great prototype layout that he's building of the Canadian Pacific Railroad. And he's very prototype minded. He really knows his stuff about Canadian Pacific stuff. So we went ahead and sent him one of these to review. And he did a great job on this review. He really liked it. He talks about the prototype accuracy compared to the full-scale locomotive. So be sure to check out Ben's review later this week, and check out his channel too. If you're into Canadian-style modeling, he's got some really great stuff that he's working on. The other one that I've got too, I kept one in the States too, because I've got someone that is probably no stranger to a lot of you folks. This is Derek over at DG Model Works. He got sent, you're probably thinking if you know his channel, you're probably thinking he's looking at a Norfolk Southern. He's not. He chose the BNSF, and this is the Prime for Grime version we were talking about earlier. You can see how this one here has got the primer doors on the long hood, and the faded out paint. And I'm sure, Tony, you've probably seen the BNSF colors fade like this pretty common where you're at.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we see Union Pacific and BNSF like this. I know a lot of guys will try to replicate that with a light wash of like white or a light gray. So as you say, it's such a handy to have the model hit this way. Then you're ready to add, more intense weathering to it. But you got the canvases laid out for you of, here's a well-used looking example.
Yeah, and I mean, I think this particular model has sold out here. Although there he goes, he's showing an actual picture of the actual locomotive to show, what it really looks like. And no doubt he'll probably do a video at some point on weathering it a little bit. But these are already out of our warehouse. Now, if you can get to your dealer might have this one still. There's a few other BNSF ES44s that are still available. Check out Derek's channel. It's DG Model Works. He just put this video up, I believe, Friday, and it's about a 10-minute review. We'll also post that too across our channel, and you'll see his review on Facebook here shortly. But these ES44s, they're very popular, and they're very popular, of course, with the Class 1 railroads. And we're really excited to offer them both in a what-if paint scheme as well as what you would really see scheme. So I guess that, I don't know, is that kind of like, I don't know, Tony, how versed you are in Star Trek, but does that mean that one's in the Kelvin universe and one's in the Prime universe?
Wow. I know you're a Star Trek person, so yes, yeah, I'm going to go with you on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely. Well, Tony, we're at that point of the show where we'll do some rail fanning and do some Q&A. Are you up for some Q&A?
Yeah. Where are you going to rail fan today?
Well, with everything going on with the holiday season and stuff, I thought we could use a little snow, especially for our fans that are out there where there isn't any snow. So let me bring up one of the world famous locations, and actually not too far from Derek over at DG Model Works. Let's head out to Pennsylvania and go to Horseshoe Curve.
They've gotten some snow in the last week for sure.
They got a little bit of snow, yeah. And look, the lights are already, boy, that's almost looking like a Christmas picture there.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. I mean, earlier we got to see a race between a coal train, an empty coal train, complete with helpers, which was interesting, and a TOFC train. So it's kind of cool to see those two coming up through the curve.
Have you ever been out there? I've never made it out to Horseshoe Curve yet.
I was out there probably 10 or 11 years ago. Now, you mentioned Otto von Drock.
Mm-hmm.
He and I used to work for the same company where they were out of New Jersey. And I went out here one weekend and I had a blast. It was just so cool to see something that you've read about as a kid, such a famous location, and then see it. And they've got a really nice park there. Definitely got some snow too. Let's see. I'm going to open this up for you guys. Say hi to everybody out there. I say hi to Kevin and Christian, Wesley. Thanks for coming on board. If you've got some questions for myself or for Tony, here's your chance. Go ahead and throw them out there in the comment section, and we'll answer them as soon as we can. Tony, what are your plans for the holiday? I mean, I can't believe it's Friday, isn't it?
It is hard to believe that it already is, upon us. And no, staying put here. I'm in northwestern Missouri, north of Kansas City, and most of my family's in Illinois. And no family plans this year. We've talked, and everybody's kind of already shared gifts. We did like this style, internet thing on Thanksgiving. I've got a sister in Illinois, and I've got a brother and his wife are in Oregon. So we probably will do a video thing on Christmas, but no, in fact, I'm not even my assistant editor lives about a half an hour south of me, Shane Mason, and we usually do a holiday dinner together. But this year, because of everything, I picked up hams for us both last week and left. They've gone through the COVID stuff recently, so we're not even having our local stuff this year. But it'll all get back before you know it, I think.
Oh, yeah.
This year's going to be me and Bandit, just me and the dog for Christmas.
There you go. There's nothing wrong with that. Hey, Nicholas just posted. He said, hey, more N-scale reruns of the FP45s, F45s. Huh. Any particular road names that you're looking for? Let me know in the comment section what you're looking for road names. Also, too, earlier I saw somebody ask when is the January announcement's going to be made. Same day. Oh, I see a light.
Yeah.
See a light coming in that upper corner of the screen. That's going to be December 28th, the Monday after Christmas. So December orders, anything that you want in the December stuff that we've talked about this past month, you need to get to your dealers before they close on the 28th. As far as with the new stuff's coming out, we'll be doing our live stream at 3:30 Monday afternoon, the 28th, and that's 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I'm thinking, Nicholas, you're going to want to tune in for that. Oh, Nicholas is saying Santa Fe. Okay. Yeah, I think you need to tune in on Monday. Here's a question for you, Tony. It's coming from Terry. Oh, that's the wrong one. Sorry. You guys are quick today. No, wrong one again. Let's see if Jim can do it this time. You guys have got so many comments going. Wants to know, Tony, are you part of the Kansas City Ops Group?
No, I have operated at some of the layouts in the Kansas City area, but no. And Kansas City's got some amazing layouts, and there's a lot of operations. My assistant editor, Shane Mason, is kind of more the operating guy, and he does quite a bit of that, but no, not so much with me, no.
Well, check this out as it comes around the curve here. There's a stuffed and mounted high hood Jeep sitting in the park. I don't know if they'll show it or not. I think my fans out there will correct my memory, my foggy memory. I can't remember if it's a Jeep 7 or a Jeep 9, but there it is. Look at that. Old Pennsylvania Railroad. It's funny how small that looks now compared to mainline locomotives.
Exactly.
And Christian Brown says it's a Jeep 9. That sounds right. It's been a few years since I've been out there. It hasn't changed too much. Malcolm's got a question for you, Tony. What's your favorite railroad?
That's a tough one. I have favorites. I mean, as I say, I mentioned earlier, I grew up Gulf Mobile in Ohio is one that's close for me, but the Rio Grande is also one that I like a lot. But yeah, I would guess if I had to like list, be GM&O, Rio Grande, Toledo, Peoria, and Western are kind of high up on my list.
Yeah, I mean that's always a tough question because if you were to ask me, you know my two favorites, but then I also like aspects of the Santa Fe, or aspects of the Burlington Northern, or aspects of the Chessie. Sometimes it's kind of hard to narrow it down to just one railroad.
And I think as modelers and rail fans, I think we all like when you guys announce something new, or if I see a magazine article, in Trains or Rail Fan on something, then suddenly, your interest gets piqued on whatever, and I'll start researching or looking more, and maybe it's all SP that week, and then next week it might be, oh, I'm really into Western Pacific stuff because I got this new model, or so I tend to. I get interested in things and do a lot of looking into, well, how many of these did they have, and was this the only paint scheme? So I know there's people you talk to that can tell you, oh, I don't even know if this railroad owned those because I don't follow that road. And especially because of the magazine, and same with you, when it becomes part of your job, oh, you need to know first generation diesel and steam and contemporary and Canadian and U.S. railroads, that you need to have a little bit of everything. But that's kind of my interest too, though, is I've always kind of had that, oh, that's cool. Like, I'd like to know more about it.
The other funny thing that kind of jogs my memory too is, you ever notice how certain railroads and certain paint schemes just seem more iconic on certain locomotives than others?
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's always the billboard yellow and blue Santa Fe paint schemes on the GP20s, thanks to Emery Goulash, who
Oh,
did a lot of filming of those. And I think that was actually Emery Goulash's favorite locomotive too, was the Jeep 20. Or, for me, the Jeep 30 and the CB&Q Chinese red and gray.
oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, they just, certain railroad with certain colors just look right for some reason, and
Exactly.
dare
Yeah.
say iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to pick. I mean, it's a simple question to ask, but it's a harder one to answer. Oh, let's see. There's a lot of comments coming through. We're getting a lot of requests. I see your requests out there for switchers, SW1001, Stephen. I see your requests on those, and trust us, we know there's a need, especially even in the Genesis line, for some nice switchers. I mean, I myself would love to see some small switchers. We are getting all your data and passing it on. Something else too, I wanted to let everybody know out there. We have a new email address. If you go to the Athearn website, go to the Contact Us. There is a email specifically for your comments as far as what you would like to see produced. It's the Athearn suggestions, product suggestions at athearn.com. And again, that's on our Contact Us page. That way you don't have to go through the customer service email. You can go right to the chase. And our guys are watching those emails to see what it is you'd like to see. And if we get enough requests for certain things, well, I think after seeing what we did with the ACUs, we'll actually produce them.
And as we talked about needing to know a little bit of everything, I find that those suggestions and that information, especially like with HO Collector Quarterly, we've just done a couple of issues. The first quarter that comes out after the first of the year has more of the old Ulrich metal line. And that series of both of those articles on those 1950s metal kits all came about from people asking, that it really was not something that myself or my co-editor, Tony Lucio, that really wasn't something that we were aficionados or that interested in. And it was like, yeah, I am curious. And so I picked up catalogs and samples, and he did the same. and suddenly we've got a couple of Ulrich articles, and we've had a lot of feedback on it. So, you never know when you're making that request. You think, oh, no one's going to listen to this, or this will never happen. But a lot, it does a lot of times. In fact, I would tell you probably a third of most of the stuff you see in HO Collector is based on somebody saying, can you tell me about this, or I want to know more about that. And it's, again, that's part of the fun is, and I'm sure it is for you guys too, when someone asks for a road name and a certain prototype, is going in and doing that research and figuring out, well, if we did this, what would it need to have, and how long did they look like this, and what details would be correct. That all those are great inspiration things. So I'm sure the feedback works the same for you as it does for me with the magazines. Of, yeah, I love seeing that stuff, because you never know what fun journeys you're going to end up going on, because somebody said, hey, can you tell me about this, or I wish you'd do this or that.
And that's one of the things I miss the most right now with the pandemic. We didn't get to do Milwaukee this year. We don't get to do the Amherst Society show in Springfield, Mass. This year. But for us at Athearn that are at the booth, that's one of the things that we love, is because at the end of the day, we're modelers, and we don't see Athearn customers as customers. We just see them as fellow modelers. And some of the conversations that we have at the booth are just, it's fun, because like you said, you'll have somebody say, hey, I've got some information on this railroad and this locomotive. Are you guys willing to do something here? And you start looking at all the information that you don't know. And there's so much information out there, and you're lucky enough to find modelers out there that have all of that expertise and data that they're willing to share, and maybe make your next model.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I got one here too. Tony wants to know, have you ever rail fanned the BNSF around Galesburg? That's a good location.
That is. Well, what's the one, the show that's at, it used to be, it's in late June. There's a great train swap meet at, it's not Mark Twain. What's the name of the college there in the Galesburg?
That was the Galesburg Railroad Days.
Yes,
Model
yes.
Train and Toy Show. Yes,
that's a tremendous show, and it's
I love that show.
But yeah, that one I like a lot, and Dad and I rail fanned that area a bit too. Our area in Northern Illinois that we used to do a lot, we'd go up to Peoria on the weekends to see the TP&W, and there was always a lot of action in Peoria. Then had Nickel Plate later in W, Rock Island. You had a lot of railroads, Illinois Terminal. In fact, they even shared part of the yard with the TP&W for years. We'd always do that, and then we'd head up to Chillicothe and catch trains on the Santa Fe main line.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite haunts.
Edelstein Hill, just west of Chillicothe and such, and that's always fun to do. So that was kind of the area that I would see a lot of that big action like that.
Got a good comment from Christian Brown. He says, that's the struggle of specializing your research. You know everything, but it's only useful for 5 people. Yes. That's true. I've met some great historians for, say, Illinois Terminal or Illinois Central, Wabash, just in my years being here. And yeah, that's kind of the danger too, is you can get so much information that's just almost so much to process. And then at the same time, you got to realize, oh, hey, we've got all these other railroads we got to do too. So yeah, that's true, Christian. That is a true statement. So here's my shout out. I do this usually once a week, Tony. I'll do a shout out and see if anybody gets the answer right. I've got a tough one for you. You mentioned Edelstein earlier, and it's funny. Edelstein, and we were talking about Emery Goulash. That was a haunt for him too. But here's a trivia question for you, somewhat railroad related, and it has to do with Edelstein, Illinois. What famous band musician played there one night? Yeah, that's a tough one, because it predates Aerosmith, it predates Led Zeppelin, it predates the Beatles and Buddy Holly. So we're going back a little bit. I'll give you a hint. It's 1940s era, and apparently at one time Edelstein was a happening place.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I never knew. There used to be a dance hall there and everything. So if anybody out there in the comments section can tell me the name of the band that played in it would be about the 1940s, obviously before this band later died. Um, I'll give you a shout out. It's a tough one this week. It's a tough one. Daniel Archer, he's got a comment. He's saying Vermont Railway SW 1500s. I love them.
Are those red and white? Is that red and white? Yeah.
Yeah, I love that paint scheme. In fact, I've been seriously thinking about not doing the Boston to Maine in the 70s, but doing Vermont Rail just because they actually bought my favorite little short line in New Hampshire. And Vermont Rail is just a cool railroad. I mean, just everything they've done. Oh, get this. So remember my question, right? What band played in Edelstein? Joel Ashcroft is the winner. Wait a minute. No, he's not. I'm sorry, Joel.
Oh.
Frederick got to me.
Glenn Miller. When you said 40s, I was thinking big band or swing.
Yeah. Wow. Good job, Frederick. You get the shout out. Good guess too at Tommy Dorsey, but no. And the funny thing is, I think I read that in a Santa Fe book, which was kind of neat. So I don't remember if he was on the train or how he got there, but yeah, just shortly before he passed away, he played in Edelstein. Kind of a neat little music railroad trivia for you. Well, we got time for maybe one or two more questions, and then we're going to wrap it up at 5. I want to thank everybody out there for stopping by and taking part of a really cool episode of Train Tuesday. And so if you got any last questions, go ahead and throw them up there, and we'll answer them for you, for either me or Tony. And man, that Pennsylvania kind of looks like almost a Christmas card with those lights. And the clouds.
Yeah, we can still see a little bit of snow, and yeah, it's a very nice scene.
So it really kind of captures the scene. Trying to find. Let's see what we got here. Joel. Looking for rubber air hoses and separate detail parts for locos. If they're not on the website yet, I would say shortly, because we do try to carry a lot of the Genesis stuff. As far as the spare detail parts. So if they're not on there yet, give it some time. Let's see. Tony, you've got a question here. Not that one. Zach says, Tony, have you ever seen the KJRY Santa train?
I'm trying to think who's that. Obviously the Kansas City Southern. In fact, when I worked at Union Station, that was one of the things we organized, was the Santa Claus visit and the KCS train coming in. I'm trying to think, that's not the line that's got the Century 415s over in the Quad Cities, is it? I'm trying to think what their reporting marks were.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure
real familiar. That is. That's good. Well, we're about at 5 o'clock, and it looks like the Pennsylvania slowed down a little bit. So you've got your holiday planned out, and it's pretty much this year. I think a lot of us are going to kind of take it easy.
Stay home and play with trains.
Yeah, exactly. So, I want to thank everybody for coming on board today and seeing all the cool stuff that we got to talk about. Don't forget those ES44s, both in the what ifs or as ifs, the ones that are right now. Those are available at your hobby dealer right now. Check out those reviews by BA Rail and DJ Model Works, and be on the lookout for Tony's review on the what if ES44s. That'll be coming out here soon. I want to thank everybody for all the great work that you guys did doing the photo contest. Keep your eyes and ears peeled for a future contest that's coming out for weathering and starting in January. But until then, Tony, any last thoughts?
Holiday wishes to everybody. That here we are at Christmas again, and that's always such a great time of year. And trains always play into it. I hope everybody has a good holiday the end of this week, and New Year's right around the corner. So
Yep, let's hope that 21's a great year. I know we've got a lot of great stuff planned for our modeling fans out there for 21. So look forward to that. Guys, don't forget, tune in Monday, the 28th at 3:30 Central Time. We'll be doing the new announcements. You few N-scale guys out there, you're going to want to be on board for this. We got some neat stuff in N-scale that are coming. Until then, from the heart of Illinois, I want to say have a good evening. Stay happy, stay healthy. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. High greens, everybody.